Poppy fiddles with her hair, Zack fires a pistol, and Dan realises that he's a historian.
Hello and welcome to Battle Gear. Now, we begin today with a letter. Dear Battle Gear, I am an officer in the British Army who will shortly have to fight the French. Can you kindly recommend the best weapons to equip myself with before the start of the campaign? Signed, Major R. Sharp. Now, considering that the Battle of Waterloo has already been fought, this advice is a little bit late, but here at Battle Gear we believe it's better late than never.
However, to answer this question, we must consult our tame weapons specialist. Now, some say that he has inspired a series of novels by the author Bernard Cornwell, or that, preposterously, he assassinated Spencer Perceval in the lobby of the House of Commons. All we know is, it's called The Wig.
Hello Wig, and welcome to the show. Now we begin today by looking at a likely contender for our weapon for Major Sharp, the Brown Bess.
Now, the Brown Bess has a long association with the British Army, but it's quite a cumbersome weapon. The length of it...
The Brown Bess musket is 5 foot in length, fires 0.42 caliber bullet at a distance of 200 yards. Standard rate of fire varies depending on the competency of the soldier handling it, 3 to 5 shots per minute, with the chance of misfire increasing with increasing use. The high rate of fire can therefore be detrimental to the utility of this weapon.
Okay, alright, thank you for that. Let's take a quick look at the firing sequence.
Well, I have to say, it is quite a laborious process. The cartridge is removed from the pouch and the end is bitten off. A pinch of powder is then poured into the priming pan. The butt of the musket is dropped to the ground. The remainder of the powder is poured down the barrel and the bullet spat in it afterwards. The ramrod is then withdrawn and pushed down the barrel to make sure that the lead bullet is sitting on top of the charge. Ramrod is withdrawn and replaced, the dog head pulled all the way back. The musket is brought up to the shoulder and then fired.
You see, the trouble with muskets is their inaccuracy over long distances. Recent reports suggest that at 90 metres, accuracy...
Musket accuracy statistics. At 90 metres, 53%. At 180 metres, 30%. 270 metres, 23%.
Yes, thank you for that, Wig. As I was saying, we have an independent expert who says that at distances over 180 metres, no man was ever killed by the person who aimed at him. However, I believe that the musket was an important weapon on the battlefield today.
Considering the major fault that you have just emphasised, it's ridiculous to argue that the musket was of great use during Waterloo. I would personally say that the Baker rifle was far more effective, especially as it could be loaded whilst lying down.
Interesting. Is there any other evidence that would suggest the Baker rifle is the better weapon for you?
Sure, just by comparing the appearance of both the weapons, it's clear to see the benefits of the Baker rifle compared to the musket in size. Although its rate of fire is much lower than the musket, at 2 shots a minute, its lethal range is far greater at 200 to 300 metres. This was vital in neutralising the French cannon deployed at La Haye-Sainte.
But the problem with rifling the barrel, it means that it fouls up much more easily, slowing the rate of fire even further.
I suppose George has got a point in that the musket decided who lost and not who won the battle.
Absolutely. It wasn't possible to arm everyone with a rifle, but used in conjunction with muskets, they could complement one another from a tactical perspective.
Now, you see, what these weapons lack is the fear factor, which is why the next weapon I'm going to present is so much more useful. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the 1796 cavalry pattern. Now look at this machine of war being put through its paces. No one would stand in the way of a man wielding one of these.
Unless you have a musket, in which case they'll shoot you before you get near.
I suppose the sabre can induce fear, but its range is too short to be effective in modern warfare. I honestly think that in the next 100 years we will see the demise of the sabre.
1796 light cavalry pattern designed by Lieutenant General Jean-Gaspard Lemarchand, part of his wider efforts to reform cavalry practice. The blade is 33 inches long, made of steel with a steel hilt and a pommel leather hand grip. Capable of opening devastating wounds in the flesh, this weapon can cause considerable damage with a few flicks of the wrist and has resulted in some complaints from French officers.
Right, I think we should talk about artillery. What do we know about the new British rockets?
Maximum projectile is 2,700 metres, design is similar to that of a firework, with a metal case explosive charge attached to a stick, the latter being used to provide greater stability in flight. Rocket troops were deployed in the Waterloo campaign, however, Wellington has his reservations about their effectiveness.
Right, well, yes, that's true, but do we have precedent for their use? They have been used throughout the last few years, including in naval assaults on land-based targets, but they aren't that reliable. The rocket troop was actually in action on the 17th of June with the British rear guard, but the results were mixed. The first rocket was fairly effective, but eyewitnesses claim that the follow-up salvo was erratic, and some of the rockets even doubled back.
I suppose that is kind of a disadvantage if your weapons kill as much of your guys as the enemy. Plus, they're very cumbersome, so I doubt your average major would find them that useful.
Yeah, I like the idea of making weapons out of what are basically fireworks, but they're just not reliable enough. What we need is more power.
You know, power doesn't solve all the world's problems.
What it does in warfare. Wick, tell us about the 12-pounder cannon.
12-pounder cannon launches a projectile of a range of 1,500 metres. Upon firing, the muzzle has to be cooled and washed out with a wet sponge to extinguish any residual sparks. Fresh charge is supplied and rammed home. A spike is used to pierce the powder bag, and then a quill or lanyard are inserted ready for firing. Alongside the solid shot canisters or shells can also be loaded.
In fact, I would say the versatility in terms of being able to cause considerable damage at both long and short ranges is the greatest advantage of cannon.
Dare I ask about the new shot which General William Shrapnel is developing?
Shrapnel, new top secret weapon. Essentially, a canister shot with a fuse. Design. If the fuse is cut to a right length, it should detonate in the air above the enemy, literally raining musket balls and shell fragments upon them.
Yeah, well, this, I think, tells us everything we need to know, ultimately. There's a clear winner. If you're still in need of advice about the weapon of choice for the British Army, Major Sharp, you need look no further than the 12-pounder cannon.
You can't be serious.
Well, I absolutely am. I mean, it kills the most people, it has the longest range, and it makes the loudest noise, which makes the enemy run away.
But what you're suggesting is so impractical, it's ridiculous. You can't have officers riding onto the battlefield while their servants unlimb them.
Actually, I think Dan's got a point.
Not you as well.
Think about it. If the British Army at Waterloo had been equipped with thousands of cannons, then the French troops would never have got within 200 yards of the crest of Mont Saint-Jean, because they would have all been killed.
And supposing this line of thousands of lethal cannons is outflanked by enemy cavalry?
Now you see, it wouldn't matter because you could deploy more cannons on your flanks.
So you're suggesting the British and Dutch simply should have had a massive arc of cannons?
What?
They already have that. They're called fortresses.
Don't be an obtuse traditionalist, George. What we have just done here is uncover a dynamic new strategy which could completely rewrite the way in which wars are fought for the next 200 years. And for that, I think we should all deserve knighthood.
Well, I think it's far more practical for our major to arm himself following army regulations, with a pair of pistols and a sabre. There's a reason we have infantry, cavalry and artillery. They're interdependent on one another. Are you two honestly suggesting that the most expensive weapon, the one that costs the most to maintain and produce, the most heavy